I stood up from the chair, still stunned. I remember grabbing the hat and staring at it. I knew I had to go to Southern Coffee. Frankie! I had no idea who this name thrown at me was. Like, who, Frankie? I can't remember. All my actions from those moments blurred together. I only remember the thoughts racing through my head. To Southern Coffee. As I held a taxi cab for Southern Coffee, I went over the facts again, trying to deny them, but they all fit too well. Frankie had been infatuated with Mrs. Green, and he could have gone to visit her. He could have taken the gun. He knew about Stable from when I told him of the case, and he could have planted it at the racetrack. Those facts might be explained away innocently, but it was the combination. Frankie was the only person with means, motivation, and opportunity to kill Green. Well, no, still, Mrs. Green has those. We're just assuming she's telling the truth. I stepped out of the cab, hoping Frankie could give me another explanation for all of it. I walked down the creaking steps. That familiar basement smell added to the lump in my throat. So, is this now a thing in here? She says her and Stable met at midnight. Mrs. Green claims Frankie killed her husband. I'm guessing that this is going to be the conclusion, because this is where everything ends. I must have spent some time looking around the place, inhaling it. Eventually, my eyes fell on Frankie. He gave me his generous smile that I knew well. I pulled out the hat and showed it to him. "This hat belongs to you," I said, in a flat tone. Frankie gaped. If I'd had any doubts, that look erased them. "You killed Connor Green." Frankie's next sentence was short, delivered after a sigh. I always remembered it. "I can't lie to you," he said. My jaw began to quiver, either from sadness or anger. It was hard to be sure. "Why get wrapped up in this?" I asked. "Does that dimpled girl mean so much to you?" Frankie shook his head. "This will be a long story," he started. I let him talk. As heated as I was, I had to know why Frankie would kill my client. "It's that sheet," he motioned to the newspaper flopped on the bar. 1887. St. Louis Browns. My last good season. My career ruined by Thomas Kinney. Kinney was a mob boss, you see. He ran St. Louis politics, above ground and below. Cruel to everyone, sure, but he had a special hate for blacks. In 1887, that hate came to baseball. One practice. Local kid comes up to the fence, calls Murray, left fielder, over to him. Tells Murray that every Browns player has to sign onto a letter, which says that he refused to play against the Brooklyn Cubans, colored team. Kid runs off. We all knew who the orders had really come from. If I refused to ink it, Kinney's gang would run me out of baseball, or worse. But some of the best teammates and people I'd known over the years had been black. I was torn up about it. In the end, I guess I was just a kid who wanted to play. I didn't want trouble. I signed with the others. It was the worst decision I ever made, Malone. It's haunted me since. I started on the hooch, and I never played the same again. I kept listening as Frankie continued. I became the booze hound of St. Louis, in the dumps at every bar in town. But this louse had tales about old Thomas Kinney, and a way of telling them that kept the others interested. Maybe my rumors worked. Kinney lost the next election. Just a few weeks later, he died of tuberculosis. Now, Kinney's partner, Tom Egan, blamed me for all of it. I knew I had to blow St. Louis, so I went to Philly, my hometown. I ran into my old pitching partner, Matt Kilroy, who had opened a bar. He invited me to run it with him, as long as I stopped drinking myself. Under his eye, I made it. I got sober by working in a speakeasy, if you can believe that. I even married Kilroy's sister and became stepfather to her 2 boys. I was engrossed, and continued to listen as Frankie went on. Well, by then, Egan had renamed the gang, and Egan's rats had spread east. They came for me one night, and I barely ducked their spray. Lucky a cop was near his beat, or they would have circled around and finished the job. I had a great life in Philly, but I had to give it up. I couldn't put my new family in that danger. I fled out west, where I knew the rats didn't have a foothold. Philly was the second time those guys ruined my life. And when you discovered that Green was part of Egan's rats, you wouldn't let them ruin you a third time. Frankie laughed. No, Malone, I could have run easy. My life here ain't much. I've nobody here, really. Except you. Sure, I could flee somewhere else, but it's you. Egan's rats won't leave an end loose. If Green had reached St. Louis, they'd have come back and tied you up. I can run from town to town, But I can't make you do that. I was the one who told you to take the case, remember? I just stopped them from hounding the rest of your life. I said it in without thought or emotion. He said, I did this for you. Oh, great. Poetic, Frankie, I countered. But this only proves you had no faith in me. Just like Green, you who hired me because he thought I wouldn't see this through his scheme, or his wife who was hoping I'd gum up the works for the police. You thought I couldn't hold my own. I'm just some flapper, playing in a man's world, isn't that right? Frankie shrugged. I just wanted to protect you. I can protect myself, I told him, and without any murders. He sighed. I suppose I wouldn't blame you for taking me in, he said. No, I won't fight it if you want to drag me to the hall. But the police have stopped looking for a killer. If you let me, I'd keep running. It's up to you. How are we going to play this, eh? Are we going to be Holmes? What would Holmes do? Because I think you went and shot him in cold blood, but you did it to protect, well, me. I'm not sure. Part of me wants to arrest him because he did break the law, but also, is there a reason not to other than I'm friends with him? Yeah, I don't know. Because the reason behind letting him go is he did it to protect me. And Green wasn't such a great guy anyway. Being a gangster, he probably would have died at some point anyway. So it's that kind of like... Moral quandaries. I can't even really arrest him anyway. I'm not a PI. I could take him to... Oh, I'm only a PI. I'm not a police officer. I could take him to the police, but that's not an arrest. That's my logic with this. Go with this. I'm not... I don't think I can arrest him. I'd have to go to the police, and if they've closed the file, they've closed the file. I think we'll go with don't. If the police have closed the files, so they're not going to be bothered if I bring someone in. And I can't arrest him. I can only take him there if he's willing. I won't arrest him. And there we are! There's the end of it. What? Apparently there were actors in this, other than me. I assume this is just for, like, the picture? Well, this was actually quite a short game. I thought it might have been slightly longer. But I think at a certain point you just kind of run out of ideas, don't you? Otherwise you do really weird things like happened in Sherlock Holmes. I think I would have liked it a bit more if, the game had kind of gone on longer and there'd been more things going on. Or even if you go down the route of, I mean, we're a private investigator, do several steps, do several sets of puzzles, several cases with their own kind of story. It was alright. I think... I'm not sure I liked... I think if you're going to hire actors for the pictures, you may as well have voices. Even though that would make it a very dialogue-heavy game, because you're doing dialogue and then moving on and then doing dialogue. Basically, I'm kind of saying, yeah, I would have preferred Contradiction. I did. I think Contradiction is a better game. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really kind of jumped out at me. I mean, the story was... I liked that you started off with one story. I think you could have had it be like a... Like, going into that idea of two different cases, you could have had one case, which was the first time you meet Green, and there's someone after him, and you find out, oh, he's faking it. And that's the end of the first case. And then the second case is, he dies, like, the next day. And then you go through this search to try and find out what happened to him. I think the style, like, I don't know. I think they went for like a colour and silhouette kind of thing, just to be different. But I think I would have preferred it if it had been kind of more realistic. Although that probably might have been more expensive to have like a decent art scene. It's a bit harsh, but it's like, it's stylized, but I'm not sure if it's a great style to have. What happens if I press this? Does it just go back? Oh, hello. So yeah, I thought I might have gone to the main menu. I might babble a little longer. So yeah. Just plot-wise, it's just... assuming this is the end. I mean, I've just clicked this, now there's something else is happening. So maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, this style, it's kind of... It's different, yes. I'm not sure how good it is. The plot, I think, has been... Primarily because it's been a shorter game. I don't think it's been as well developed as other games. Alright. Let's move on. It was a few mornings later that I received a knock on my door. A small man in a light blue uniform asked me to sign for a package and handed me an envelope and a brown box. I opened the envelope. Oh, this is going to be because we let Frankie go. Inside were Frankie's scribbles, only slightly more legible than hieroglyphics. The writing was curt. Blow in the berg, it started. Too much baggage around to keep this act going. Went back to the missus for my hat. Spotted this. She agreed you should have it. Hope it serves you well. You've been a great detective. Good note, yeah. The final two letters were obscured by a small wet blotch on the page. Ah, thanks for everything, Frankie. I put the note away, but not before a drop fell on the name Frankie, creating my own small wet blotch. Ah. I turned to the box and removed one side of the tape from the cardboard. Then snapped the flaps open with a couple of loud pops. Rolled in a loose ball inside the box was Lewis's grey coat. I put it on and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked ready for a sequel. I grabbed the lapels and pulled them tight. The trench coat suited me. I wondered how Green had first gotten a hold of it. That innocent question was about to lead to a lot of trouble. Oh, that can't go. I'm assuming that's the end of it. Okay, well, getting back to the main menu. So yeah, okay, I did quite like that ending. I mean, because we had that weird moment where it's like, it was floating away from us and everything. I think this just feels like it's been really short. And like, very kind of... Because it's been short, I don't think the case was that as well developed as it could have been. I mean, for example, there's only like 5 people who are suspects, and I think they could have maybe had you pop into the police station and get reports, and kind of like you can talk to people for advice. Like I know like they don't want you going to the police for the advice, for the hints, because they want you to kind of build the relationship with Frankie. But I think, yeah, I think if you'd spread things out, you could have it be like maybe you try and work out what Green was doing in the evening, and that builds up a bit of a picture. Maybe have more information on Green be available. I know that a few of the characters, like for example Stable, he's very quiet as a character and very kind of reserved. You don't find out much about him. I think if you'd opened him up a bit more, that could have given you more people to go and investigate, which then kind of lengthens the game. It gives you more people who can give you bits of information. There were several people who gave different bits of the same bit of information that you used to get the same kind of consequence out of a character. So I think you've got that. All those kind of different things. I wonder what happens if you accuse the wrong person. Like, can you accuse... Well, you must be able to accuse the wrong person. Oops. But, like, I mean, yeah, I think every character, if you made them slightly more forthcoming with certain bits of information, you could then expand that out to work on those, and kind of then that might give you more people you can bring into the place. You can open up more locations. It feels like a very good demo. It feels like a quite good longish demo for another game. Like, this is like an early case. I really like a quite early case, because as I said, you could have each character could maybe reference one other character. Like, maybe Stable mentions maybe there's someone else, or maybe there's multiple people at one location. Like, there could be another person at the racetrack, which then, oh, there's a gun here. What are you doing here? What's Stable doing here? So you then go there. He talks to you. You've introduced another potential suspect who has a bit more information. Now I've got to work out what you're doing here. I think you could have had... you could split the tin spoon into two areas. You could have one at the front door where you're talking to the guard, and maybe the guard can give you some more information about different things. And it's like... So, I've not added any new locations, and I've added 2 new characters. And... you could have... So the guard could say, like, when you ask him about a back exit, you could say, no, I don't think there's a back exit. Tiny Paul never told me about that. And then, so that leads you into the information that only the women know about it, and backs that up. There's all kinds of different things you can work with that could give you more characters to work with, give you a bit more, throw more information out there, more clues out. You could kind of change up how the information is kind of shared. So there's, yeah. It was. I mean, this game was fun, and I've enjoyed playing it. But there's a few things that I think they could have done better. Oh well. Well, there we go. Not sure what I'm gonna replace this with. I'm assuming we will find out next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.